we're tracking the import-export story closely. Exports now declining for fifth consecutive month.
That's right, Shweta, and not the best of news to have heard. While we might rejoice that while exports are declining, we also have a situation that imports are declining. But imports are declining. The value of imports is declining primarily on the back of cooling of commodity prices, which doesn't really mean that we are importing any less than what we were importing earlier. And it's not really, a tick mark on India's manufacturing story that, hey, our Atmanirbharta or our self-reliance is paying off and we are not importing as much. And it's also worrisome that exports have dwindled. Exports have gone down about 10%, 10.6% or so year on year. And the figure right now rests at about $34 billion, which is not great. Now, that's something that we can't control much because it's purely dependent on the demand from international markets. And we've seen that in the wake of inflation, in the wake of rising interest rates the world over, demand is obviously dwindling. And as demand dwindles, non-essentials take a back seat. And as a result of which, countries that we used to export to are not importing as much from us, or even other parts of the world for that matter. Even China, our neighbor, is finding contraction in the economy by way of exports going down. So overall, the fiscal deficit has the trade deficit has widened, and it's widened to about $22 billion or so, and that also is a 5-month high. So we were contracting, narrowing the trade deficit, and that's no longer happening on account of successive contraction in exports as well as the value of imports.
Okay. It's interesting because even as exports are down, imports are down as well. And that, as a result of which we've been so far able to contain the trade deficit. However, the percentage at which exports are now going down is significantly higher at 10% and over 10%, while imports are down just about 7%.
6.5% or so is the figure on import. But like I said, it's also a function of the dollar strengthening against the rupee, as a result of which exports should get lucrative. And it would have been a great opportunity for India's export market had the world not been in the grip of inflation. And we're talking about major economies here. We are talking about Europe. We are talking about New Zealand. We are talking about our neighborhood, whether it is Sri Lanka or Pakistan. Not that we export to Pakistan, but overall the whole economy is dwindling. US is also seeing a very, very small growth number. It's not technically in recession yet, like New Zealand, like Germany, like many other parts of Europe. But it's in a state of stagflation that interest rates are much higher than growth rate. So overall, the economic scenario worldwide is such that even despite a dollar strengthened well against the rupee, we are not able to rake in the export numbers. And on the contrary, imports, of course, while the import number has come down, that's come down on account of cooling of commodity prices. So not really a great manufacturing story to write home about that, hey, we are not importing as much and hence the trade deficit is under check. It's under check on account of softening of prices.
Okay. So not a great story there, but of course that is on the back of the fact that economies all across the world are facing headwinds. In fact, they're facing headwinds from US to UK. We're tracking, of course, recession in Eurozone. So essentially on the back of the fact that there is lower demand all across the world.
That's right, absolutely, and that's what I just stated. That it's completely out of control for India to alone work on, because the whole world is dealing with inflation. Central banks the world over are tightening policy. US made an exception 2 days back by hitting the pause button, but we've seen ECB is raising rates, and overall, the environment is not conducive for trade to flourish between India and rest of the world.